This is History Unit 1, Paper 1. But, Paper 1, the year is 2016. Alright, let's have a go at it. For any one of the following groups, the Aztec or the Inca or the Maya, which of the following descriptions below is false, that they lack well-organized governments. Alright, so I've done most of these before, so I'm just going to be skipping past the ones that I have already done. For any one of the following groups, the Tainos or Kalinagos or Tupinamba, right? Which of the following was not a feature of their culture? This was the terraced fields, right? The archaeological, alright, so we looked at this already, alright? These were sagas, alright? Which of the following would suggest the presence of Africans in the Americas before 1492. Alright, looking at Balboa's records. This is interesting because cowrie shells were used as currency in Dahomey, right? West Africa, right? Mayan worship dark skinned gods. Let me see. Mention of African people in Balboa's records. Let me see. Right, so the mention of Africans. Right, so so I'm not too sure of this, because for Vasco Nunes de Balboa, right, I think he was one of the persons who reported that he saw Africans in Panama, and the archaeologists have found statues of Africans, right, within the New World. So I think you probably would be Balboa's records. Would be the best answer there. The main supply of gold to Western Europe in the 14th century came from West Africa. Which of the following factors motivated Spanish colonization in the Caribbean up to 1600? So Bullianism, mercantilism, the spread of Christianity. I don't think the law of primogeniture, but the law of primogeniture could be one. Alright, remember that Bullianism is making money out of useful things like gold, well, out of precious metals, right? But the law of primogeniture is an interesting way to look at it, because this speaks about the inheritance, right, of a person's property, right, to their firstborn or a legitimate child upon their death. So I'm not sure about that. It could be all of them, but some persons may do something else. In the 1600s, though, I don't think the entire process was to spread Christianity at the time fully. I would go with B. I think the Christianity was used to justify it, but not really to motivate. The transfer of food. Okay, we saw this Columbian exchange. Which of the following systems reparative? Wait, this would be encomienda, right? Indigenous peoples paid tribute to the Spanish with bottle gourds. Let me see. I think it would be bottle gourds and gold. Which of the following was not a method of resistance used by indigenous people against the Spaniards? Alright, this would have been paying tribute. Which of the following factors accounted for the Spanish conquest of the Aztecs and Incas? Internal conflict among the Indians, superior military force by the Spanish, tactics divided and ruled by the Spanish, strong resistance from the Indians. there was strong resistance for a while, and there was strong resistance. So there was strong resistance. All right. But I don't think we would have included it here. 1, 3, and 4. Right. A consequence of the Inca War of 1530, right, was that Atahualpa won the throne. Let me see. There was a dispute between Inca military resistance to Spanish aggression was weakened. Bartolomé de las Casas was associated with the campaign against the encomienda system. Right? Now this was Dominican friars, the first nation involved in transatlantic trade in East Africans was, I believe it would be, Portugal. Which of the following statements most accurately represents chattel slavery? Right, so it speaks to property. Which of the following factors best accounts for the Europeans' preference for the Africans in the 17th century now, right? So I think this would have been because of the working in the tropics suitable work. Which of the following actions were used by enslaved women as a method of resistance? Practicing birth control, poisoning masters, and participating in armed revolts. 2, 3, and 4, I believe. Okay. The mortality of pregnant females on the plantations largely due to probably self-induced abortions or inadequate health care, depending on what you guys want to look at. Which of the following was not a contributory factor to the success of the Haitian Revolution? Right, so the purchase of guns from the United States of America. Let me see. These military alliances with France. Unity among all the groups in Saint-Domingue. Probably it would be unity of all the groups in Saint-Domingue. I don't think that makes sense. I mean, most of the groups in Saint-Domingue had unity. I think it would be unity a bit, right? So unity would be a part of it. So not contributing would probably be the purchase of God. It depends. Because the persons in Saint-Domingue were rallying against the French because the whites wanted supremacy overall. The poor whites wanted to be better off, right? The colored wanted free laws, right? And the enslaved persons wanted freedom. So I'm not sure if it's a unity of all of them. In overthrowing me, you have cut down in Saint-Domingue only the trunk of the tree of liberty. It will have sprung up again by its roots, for they are numerous and deep. During the Haitian Revolution, Saint Louverture expressed this sentiment above after his capture by the French. Which of the following strategies of economic survival was least used by enslaved Africans in the Caribbean? Bartering of allowances, interesting. Right, let's look at this. The claim that the reduction this would have been the client thesis. Most planters in the Caribbean did not encourage breeding among the enslaved people during 1700s because that's it, by the idea of reproduction, right? It was more costly to breed slaves than to buy it. Most slave pregnancies resulted in stillborn and miscarriage. I think it probably be because of the loss of the slave women, and they used that as an advantage. Passive methods of resistance were preferred by the enslaved people because it will probably be unnoticed and difficult to prevent. Only a few slaves were employed in the sugar factories because factories were dangerous and required more skilled slaves. 28. The main aim of the slaves who participated in the Jamaican Jamaica Rebellion of 1831 was to take strike against planters. Destroy plantations and cause ruin, take strike against and demand wages. It was about demanding wages. Yes. Right. So all of the following were strategies employed by the enslaved people during the Jamaica Rebellion of 1831, except disarming creating a slave regiment which mobilized and held bases in the forest. Nope, it was largely unorganized. 30. The harsh punishments endured by the enslaved rebels in the aftermath of the Jamaica Rebellion was significant because it deterred enslaved from participating in further. It strengthened the anti-slavery movement in the British. I think this would have strengthened the anti-slavery movement in Britain. All of the following were provisions outlined into Constitution and Sound and Law, except but really loyal to who for France. Right, so let's look at this. Britain invaded Samoa during the slave rebellion, or all the following except to defeat the slave rebels to prevent insurrection spreading to the colonies. True. To gain support of the French planters to remain in the colony. No. To avenge French's rule in the and the halt. Yes. So Toussaint broke his alliance with the Spanish during the Saint-Domingue revolt, mainly because he feared that unable to sufficient, probably because of the National Assembly, right, declared abolition of slavery in Saint-Domingue. All of the following were achievements made by Toussaint in 1802, except seizing control of Saint-Domingue, and choosing Britain and the US, completely reviving the think could be that. The United States were reluctant to trade with the Haitians after 1804, mainly because, right, the southern planters who supported slavery opposed further trade. The government did not want to. The servants were paid while the slaves were not. The servants released. Okay, U.S. government did not approve of the policies adopted by the Haitian leaders. Probably that. Wait, hold on. Is this different? I'm not sure what this is. I'm so sorry. It probably is from down there. So yes, it is. All right. So let me read the thing properly. The U.S. government was promised lands from North America. All right. Up to 1820s, the primary concern of the Haitian leader was probably the security of the country from external threats. Haitians were displeased with decisions to pay war damages to France in 1825 because they could not understand why France had to be paid. Haitians were excessively taxed. French demands were outrageous, could not be justified, and the majority of damage took place in Haiti, not in France. Probably it would be this. Slaves were prohibited from possessing property to ensure that they're dependent on the planters. The main difference between the indentured servants of the enslaved people, and the enslaved people, were that servants had the rights and enslaved had none. Servants had freedom of movement when enslaved had none. Let me see. Servants were paid. I think that would be on the rights. I think it would be rights, natural rights there. Susu, partner, and Boxant were economic systems developed by the slaves through which small amounts of money money was collected among small groups of persons unknown to members. Wonderful. The main carriers of enslaved people across the Atlantic were in the 18th century, right? So this would have been Britain. So Britain has to be in it. Spain has to be in it, I believe. No, Germany won't be in it. So probably these persons. But France, a lot they brought. So could look at that. Planters were required to register their slaves. Well, I think if it was 18th century, no, I think they were starting to unravel the slave trade thing and start breeding. So in that case, C may be a good answer. Please tell me in the chat. Planters were required to register their slaves after 1807 primarily to I think it would be preventing illegal importation of slaves. All of the following leaders of Haiti had aimed to reestablish plantation system except was it Jean-Pierre Boyer? Or no, I think it was Alexandre Pétion because he did the métayage system. The Portuguese wanted to explore West Africa in the late 1400s, mainly to locate a sea route to Asia. The main aim of the encomienda system was to provide the Spanish with effective supply of labor. So that was the end of the 2016 History Unit 1, Paper 1.